Work-life balance for teaching from home can be tricky. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. And, last week we talked about setting goals when you're exhausted. Because let's face it, teaching in this pandemic has left a lot of us teachers exhausted. But the goal is, ideally, and the goal of this video is going to help you do this, ideally you don't feel burnt out all the time because you've found some kind of rhythm that works for you. You've found a way to no longer be exhausted at the end of every day. You found a way to choose when you want to work and then choose to turn your teacher brain off so you can enjoy other parts of your life. That is how I define work-life balance, and that's what I'm going to help you strategize about today. The first thing to keep in mind when you're distance learning and you're trying to find this work-life balance for teaching from home is that it is fine to want a work-life balance. You should not feel guilty for not wanting to be a teacher or in teaching mode all of the time. I think that this is a really interesting work-life balance challenge that we teachers face that in the corporate world, for example, employees might not really feel, right? No one takes a second look if you say you want work-life balance and you are on Wall Street. But if you're a teacher, all of a sudden that can feel, as teachers, we can kind of internalize this guilt and we interpret that subconsciously as, no, I'm selfish for wanting to not be working all the time. If that is you, I'm so glad that you clicked on this video because you need to hear this. Your effectiveness as a teacher and the amount of love that you have for your students has nothing to do with how many hours of your day you spend stressing if you're good enough. It is not about how detailed the lesson plans are. It is not about how many new tech tools you've tried out. It is not about how many emails a day you can reply to. And once you realize that there is a way to do this, there is a way to teach from home, there's a way to be a teacher in a distance learning environment in a pandemic, amidst social and political unrest, that you can love your job and be good at it and impact your students. That is a light bulb that I hope that you're having now if this is a new idea for you. You should not feel guilty for wanting work-life balance. And oftentimes that guilt is enough of a reason that we don't master what we call work-life balance. So here's the deal. I know a lot of you probably want some hacks for teaching from home. I got plenty of those that I'm going to share with you in a second. And I think it's useful to take this holistic approach that I'll share with you in this video as well. So we're going to kind of split this video in half. So we're going to go holistic and we're going to do the list of hacks. Cool? Now. We got to talk about what this term even means. What is work-life balance? Because I think that it's a little bit of a misnomer. I'm not going to lie. I think that we picture something that has to do with balance. I got my coffee, let me put that down. I think when we hear balance, we picture something like a seesaw or, that justice imagery, that scale, right? And we picture a successful life when we talk about work-life balance as this thing where work and everything that's not work, the rest of our life, our family, our friends, our hobbies, are equal, right? And every time it's not equal, one way or the other, we feel like we are not in balance, we are not good enough, we are failing this quest towards work-life balance. And I encourage you to, instead of thinking of it like a scale or like a balance or like a seesaw, that you have to get perfectly straight, try thinking of it in a different way. Here's how I want you to try to think of it. Imagine an ice skating rink. Yeah, so imagine an ice skating rink, and I know very little about figure skating. I only recreationally would go ice skating in high school, with friends. But imagine you've got this beautiful, plain, very smooth ice. You're the only one, let's say, skating, and let's pretend that you're good at it, because if it were me, I'd be falling all the time. But so let's imagine that you're skating across this beautifully polished field of ice, right? And there's a feeling of you have momentum. You're gliding forward and you have control. you might tilt one way to turn left, you might tilt the other way and do like one of these arm movements or something to turn right. And you're not always super split in your weight between both feet. It's totally natural and desirable to kind of shift one way to the other. But it doesn't feel like there's a ton of resistance. You're moving forward and you're in control, even though you're not upright and very stiff, right? That's the kind of imagery that I want you to think about when you consider what work-life balance could be for you. Because the reality is it's never 50-50. It's never going to be that at the second your schedule says you should stop working, you should stop, or the second you're supposed to start working, you start. I encourage you to not think of it in such black and white, but instead say, okay, there are some times where I'm going to lean into this part of my life. There are some times when I'm going to lean into this part of my life, but I'm gliding. That's where I want to get you to. So far we have rid ourselves of the guilt of wanting to have work-life balance, and we've re-envisioned for ourselves what successful work-life balance is or isn't. Namely, it's never perfect. It's not this like binary thing, you're balanced or you're not. Instead, it's how we manage our energy and what we choose to lean into at different moments. I'm checking my list here. Yeah, so, okay. You with me so far? Now, you're no longer on the ice skating rink alone. I want you to picture this for me. Now, there's you gliding beautifully on the ice, and then there's this toddler. And there's this toddler on the rink, and this toddler has taken off one of their ice skates. And you know how there's like the pointy part, the like jagged part at the toe of an ice skate? Again, I'm not an ice skater, sorry if you are. But the little jaggedy part, imagine that there's this toddler who's just taking the sharp part of the toe of an ice skate and just like putting it in the ice. What is that gonna do? Thank you. It's gonna create all these little divots in the ice. It's gonna create an uneven surface. And so when you, this graceful dancer on ice, try to glide past these divots, glide over them, you're gonna stumble. And if you're me, you're gonna stumble a lot more than that, but at the very least, you're gonna lose your balance, you're gonna fall, or you're not gonna be as graceful as you would want, because there are these like potholes, if you will, in the ice, and they're not really in your control. Like, it's just some random kid's toddler you can't do anything about. Okay, maybe the image is overextended at this point, but you know what I'm saying. So the next thing to think about is looking at where you're at right now with your energy levels and your work-life balance when you're teaching from home. What in your life is the toddler making random potholes in your beautiful ice? What are the things that you find yourself just constantly tripping up over that prevent you from shutting off your teacher brain when you want to and being present at home or in your family or on your other projects? For me, and if you remember from the last video about goal setting when you're tired as a teacher, which I'll link right there, for me, the thing that my toddler breaking the ice is my work email. I find that whenever I'm mindlessly on my phone, I just kind of like haphazardly go and open the email app, even if it's 9 o'clock at night. And funny thing is when you check your email, you usually have new emails. And then if I have emails from students, I feel like I need to respond to them. So for me, I know that a pain point that I need to focus on to improve my work-life balance is how and when I check email so that I don't get sucked in. What is the number one pain point for you? Let's identify that one pain point and let's work on that, okay? Don't try to fix everything. Don't try to make a master beautiful plan, waking up at 4 a.m. that's gorgeously executed every single day. Too much. Just pick one thing you want to get a little bit better at. What is your toddler? And let's put that toddler in timeout. I don't know. Moving on. This toddler metaphor has gone too far. We'll now call it a pain point. So take your pain point and think about what in your day triggers you to fall into that pitfall, to be susceptible to that pain point. For example, for me, I told you it's checking the Gmail app on my phone when I'm on my phone. So I noticed that when I'm not, at 7 o'clock at night when I should be, or I want to be doing other things and thinking about other parts of my life, if I see the Gmail app or I see emails come through, I will look at them. And so what I can do to alleviate this trigger for me is I just took the Gmail app of my work email, I took it off my phone. Seriously, it's okay to not have your work email synced to your phone because we're teaching from home. Anytime you're supposed to be working, you have your computer open. So I just removed the Gmail app from my home screen, unsynced or desynced my work email from my phone. But if email is not your thing, let's say, you've got a different kind of pain point, figure out what small tweaks can you make based on what causes you to fall into that pitfall. Does that make sense? And now, rapid fire teaching from home, while distance learning, work-life balance hacks for you. Number 1, your LMS that you use, Google Classroom, Canvas, Schoology, whatever, those things trigger a ton of notifications and a ton of emails. Go into the notification settings if you haven't already. Disable all the emails that you don't need to see. If you already know that you're going to be checking Schoology or Google Classroom or whatever, you don't need to be notified every time a student turns in something late, because we know during a pandemic that happens a lot. Number 2, put in your syllabus when you check your email. I'm so serious. This is a game changer for me that my administrator suggested, and I love it. I put a dedicated little blurb in my syllabus that says, hey, I will be checking email once in the morning, one set in mid-afternoon, and never after 5 p.m. on weekdays, and I won't be checking email on weekends. I'd love to send, please feel free to email me. I will get back to you as soon as I check my email the next time. And I do this because, I wrote in the syllabus, because I want to show up for you, my students, talking to them, I want to show up for you energized and the best absolute version of myself that I can be, which, for me, as previously mentioned, means that I need to manage how much of my time I'm spending on work email. So I'm serious, put it in your syllabus, talk about it with your kids. It sets a beautiful example for them of what healthy boundaries in electronic communications look like. Now, if you like that idea, but you're like, my kids are not gonna read my syllabus after the first day, they're not gonna remember it after the first week, yada, yada, yada. Tip 2A, you can put in your email signature in just small font under your name and your title, your school, just in small font. Just put that same information in like a sentence. I check email once in the morning, once in mid-afternoon, and I log off at 5 o'clock. If you email me after 5 or on a weekend, I'll happily get back to your email as soon as I get back to work. Here's the great thing about this. The hardest part for setting work-life balance, boundaries, sometimes is your own self-restraint. So when you have in your email signature that you don't respond to email after 5 o'clock on weekdays or on weekends, and you find yourself tempted to shoot a quick reply at 7 o'clock at night on a Saturday, on your phone, you're going to see the signature. You're going to be like, wait, people are going to think that that's silly if I'm responding and it says it there. So, it will be a reminder to yourself as well, and a little bit of like self-accountability. And I think that's useful too. Plus, it removes the guilt of you feeling like you have to respond immediately when someone messages you. Oftentimes in electronic communications, it feels, because we receive it instantly, that we have to respond instantly. But that urgency that you might be feeling is false. That urgency you might be feeling when you receive an email is false. Next work-life balance tip, and I don't know if this will apply for you. It applies to me. All I can do is speak about what kind of messes with my work-life balance, and I hope that it resonates with you. But, okay, so on my Facebook account, I have added myself to a lot of teacher groups because Facebook is mad powerful for these teacher groups. I've got Spanish teachers working together. I've got comprehensible input language teachers. I've got all sorts of teaching Facebook groups, and they all provide amazing strategies and resources and tips and ideas because it's this beautiful hive mind of all the teachers that are involved in this group. It's beautiful. If you're not a part of Facebook groups and you're a teacher, get on it. I really recommend it. But it can be a double-edged sword, because when do you go on social media? You probably go on social media when you're not working, when you're trying to focus on something other than your teacher brain. And so what I have found is now my Twitter feed, my Facebook feed, my Instagram feed is full of teachers talking about their work, which is fantastic, but not when I'm trying to shut my teacher brain off. So, tip for you, and something that I'm gonna try doing as well, make a second social media account to be your teacher account. So you can still be in the groups. You can still follow the education influencers on Instagram who have the beautiful ideas and amazing classrooms. But when you don't want to be reminded of how beautiful their classroom is, you don't have to see it. That's another way that you are making boundaries for yourself. You are saying, you are deciding when teacher content is put in front of you and when it isn't. Otherwise, if you're just all your cousin's baby photos and your teacher group, teacher paid teacher comments are they're all coming in the same feed, and you're just scrolling, you have no control over what Facebook shows you next, right? So take some more control. Why not? My cameraman has reminded me that I mentioned the coffee and then never brought it back, so, I'm finishing it. I'm just looking at my notes here. I could talk about this topic so much, so if you want a second video of more tips, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the video, leave a comment, let me know that these are working for you or that you want more, because I think that there's such a tendency to just dump information on yourself when you're trying to solve a problem. But take these few ideas, pick one or two of them to respond to the very specific pitfall that we identified together, or figure out one solution that will respond to that for you, and put it into action today. Today, add that message to your email signature if that's what you want to do. Make that second account for teacher Instagram influencers and unfollow the rest of them on your personal account. Make the first step now so that eventually this work-life balance thing, or as I prefer, this effortless gliding with momentum, it will start to become more automatic and something you don't have to think so much and stress so much about achieving. So take one action today. And tell me in the comments what your one action is. I really want to know. And I geek out over this stuff, so if you have other ideas that I haven't mentioned, there are so many of them, please put them in the comments down below. We can help each other out, and I think that can be really powerful. Oh, and by the way, if you are here as a new viewer, a new subscriber from the Practical and Comprehensible Virtual World Language Conference, I want to extend a special welcome to you. Thanks so much for sticking around. If you haven't already done my Learn, Try, Stop technique as a way to reflect on the past year and come up with easy peasy goals that are not scary and will work for you even if you're burnt out, be sure to click right here. I highly recommend going into the next year with that under your belt. And if you want to learn more about project-based learning, I've got a whole playlist about that right here. That's all. Thank you so much. Have a good one.